In session 4, you will be previewing a set of instructor notes and answering several questions. In preparation for this activity, I would like to take you through the QuantWay Core instructor notes for lesson 3.4, which is entitled Breaking Down the Variables. As you can see, the lesson starts out, as always, with the key to the PNL exercises. Reminder, PNL stands for, as you can see right here, preparing for the next lesson. So these are the assignments that the students need to do in order to be prepared for the lesson, which will be their next meeting. So this is the page where the actual exercises the students need to accomplish are. On the left-hand side, as you can see, which is outlined in blue, that's what the instructor receives. The students obviously do not receive the answers. I do also want to highlight on the next page, which would be page 3 of the notes, question number 3, which is the last question. This is an opportunity for students to rate themselves. It gives them an opportunity to reflect on the topics and determine how confident they are or are not, so that they understand that they may need to meet with you, review the PNL, or possibly obtain a tutor. Moving on to the next page, I'd like to talk about the structure of the instructor notes overall. As you can see from this page, each side, the left side and the right hand side, are all in blue. Again, anything in blue for instructor notes, that's what the instructor sees, but the students do not. So these have some different pieces to them. So it has the math topic, it has the prerequisite assumptions, so things that we think students should know, the learning goals, which are also stated in the student notes, and then also explicit connections down here, which say how this lesson may connect to others. For each of the instructor notes, you will have suggested timelines. So suggested timeline is, as it says, just a suggested timeline. Often you will need more time than suggested. When writing the notes, it is often very difficult to specifically ascertain how much time will be needed. I'm going to focus on the first item in the suggested timeline, which says 7 minutes, and I think that actually is a pretty good prediction, where the instructor with the class is going to discuss question number 1. So let's move on to that page. So here we see a difference. Everything is not in blue. So we can see that on the left-hand side, this is what the students have. But on the right-hand side in blue, these are the instructor notes. So I'd like to talk about the structure. And I'm just choosing my pen. There we go. I'd like to talk about the structure of the student notes. And we're just going to focus on page number 3. Right here you can see the page number. So page number 3 for the student notes. So this is what the students see. So for the students, they can see that this is a citizenship lesson. That's the theme of the lesson. There are different lesson themes throughout the curriculum. You can also see that the specific objectives are listed. Now, sometimes I actually take some time and go over the objectives. I think it's really important to kind of set the stage or launch the lesson so that they understand what we will be talking about. So a main objective of this lesson is variables. So this is something that I actually might take some time and make sure that they see the definition, and make sure also that we need to understand what a variable is, but also we are then going to use given information to evaluate an expression with multiple variables. And then the heart of this lesson is what happens when one variable changes. So we'll be talking about this. So this is where you're going to be launching your lesson. And remember, from here to here, there is a prediction that this will take 7 minutes. So when I'm preparing, I might even write 7 minutes so that I know, okay, give or take a little bit of time, I want my students to be done with question number 1 by 7 minutes. So question number 1 happens after the problem situation, calculating the braking distance of a car, is launched. So there are different ways to launch this. You could say read some of the paragraph. You could have the students read silently. You could have some students read aloud, but you do also probably want to give all students time to process the information given in the problem situation. And then you also probably want to give them a little bit of time to ask them if there are any words that need to be defined. It is interesting that we can make assumptions that all students know what a word means, and sometimes we can be making a false assumption. So once the problem situation is read, and then we're launching question number 1, we want to again note that this is a class discussion. So class discussion. And so the class discussion, this often goes very well because most students can understand that there are factors that do affect the braking distance of a car, like the road conditions, like the tire conditions, etc. So this can be a really exciting opportunity for the class to really spin off and talk about different issues. I'm going to go forward and show you that after class discussion of problem number 1, they're then going to move on to their small group discussions for question numbers 2. I'm going to forward. And then we get to this area right there. This is where the class probably needs to come back together because we want to talk about specific things in this rather large formula, such as exponents, such as what V sub 0 means. So we need to understand what subscript means. We also need to point out to them, or have students point out to each other, that many of the variables also come with a unit of measurement, and then let them proceed with questions 3 and 4, alternating with class discussions. Now on this page of the instructor notes, I'd like to take a moment and point out 2 areas. And this is an area, of course, that you'll want to prepare before you walk into class. So you want to make sure that you truly understand what the main idea is of this lesson. And it's not about braking distance. It is about variables, expressions, equations, formulas. Braking distance just happens to be the vehicle, pardon the pun, to get us talking with our students about all of these components. Now notice down below we also have another main idea, and that is order of operations. So for students to be able to successfully evaluate this expression, they need to understand their order of operations. So make sure you have your main ideas prepared, because this will be used in the making connections part of the lesson, which we'll see in a moment. Now we're on to student notes with making connections, and this is a valuable opportunity to come back with your students and make sure that they are driving this discussion, but it is facilitated, it is prompted through dynamic questions by you, of making sure that they're understanding the main ideas, the important mathematical ideas from the discussion. So making sure that they understand that, yes, we talked about braking distance, but we were really discussing what variables are, units, notation, order of operations, etc. So that's where we want to make sure that our students wrap up that lesson before they move on. Now, after this lesson is completed, the last part of this lesson, lesson 3.4, is the out of class exercises. Now notice this is all student, nothing's in blue. And so the out of class exercises start with making connections to the lesson. And this comes back from the making connections discussion that you had. Then we get into the actual heart of the lesson. So making sure that they're actually able to go through the objectives. And then for your help at the end of this lesson, you can see we're back into blue now, is our key. So I would encourage you for every single lesson, read all of the instructor notes and then do the student notes as if you were a student. But then in the margins, a good idea is to make some notes. Well, what should I be doing now? Should it be a class discussion, small group, individual time? And then also, how much time do I plan to spend on each section? And then prepare the OCE. Remember, OCE stands for out of class exercises. And you want to check the answers. And if you do see something that either you don't understand or you disagree with, please make sure you let someone from the team know.